Some people have shown some interest in the concepts I discussed in my last video about science and spirituality, especially ideas like Maya, Mithya, etc. I'm tempted to do this video, but I would like to kind of add a rejoinder that I'm not really an expert on Indian scriptures or philosophical ideas, nor do I know Sanskrit enough to have understood them in their true essence. But yes, I tried my best to kind of think about them, and there's some kind of logical consistency in them that is very attractive for me. So I'm just sharing that part. Please don't look at me as somebody trying to be a kind of philosopher or guru of Indian, spirituality. No, I'm a regular dude, and I'm not planning to become a bearded Mahatma of any sort. So I think first I'll try to do something that all of us do at some point of time in our life is to ponder over the nature of the universe. So, universe is something that we are trying to figure out. If you look at Western science, it is basically using an empirical method of observing the universe and trying to see, if they can really figure out the behavior of that entity. So, there are some very kind of small assumptions that we can make, and we can look at each of them to understand a possible direction in which we can be heading to understand the universe better. So the first and most popular understanding, rather aspiration and hope humanity has, is that we have a deterministic universe. There is a very law driven universe which is not violating any principles. It is extremely precise, clockwork. Something that maybe during the Newtonian, post-Newtonian era became very popular before quantum physics came and kind of ruined the scene. So that is one possibility, that it's a very deterministic universe. The second possibility is that it is completely non-deterministic universe. And third possibility is that it is somewhere in between. So, let's first attempt the completely non-deterministic universe to understand that, that is not possible. So we have so many things around us. So many things means things can be organized in some kind of order. And the presence of some order indicates that this is not a random universe, because in a completely random universe, things would not manifest. And obviously we have intellect and that has worked. So that means that this universe is left with two possibilities. One is that either it is completely deterministic or it is reasonably deterministic, with some part of it being probabilistic. Now, completely deterministic is something that not really looking very promising, looking at the modern scientific evidences that we have. And there is another possibility that we can now kind of think about. If something is completely deterministic, something is completely driven by a law, then it doesn't need to manifest, because it can just, the laws can be written, and as long as those laws exist, anybody can make that universe manifest at any point of time. But it doesn't have to be, so it will be a very static universe. It will not be in the kind of flux that we observe around us. So for a universe to be dynamic, it is not very probable that it is going to be completely deterministic. In some way you can visualize it that if something is completely law driven, it will sort of play out. So universe would run over and get over. That is the kind of situation it would have. So there is a greater probability that this universe is having a mix of determinism to a certain extent, and there is, beyond it, there is some kind of randomness that it is possessing. Now, one of the biggest indicators of this is, as I have previously said, is our intellect. So intellect is our power to kind of predict how universe behaves, and that is our ability to recognize laws and rules that govern something. The patterns are basically laws and rules that govern something, and that we keep observing in this universe. So the fact that intelligence has emerged in this universe, and intelligence is having some kind of an advantage, means that this universe is substantially deterministic. But there is obviously an ugly twist in the end that if you kind of look at a say example of some kind of a game designer. So if he makes a game that is completely law driven, and then you figure out the law, the game is done with. It is not. That's not a kind of leela that really gets you a reality like what we have. But obviously, if it's not law driven to an extent that the person is not going to be charmed and want to play it, there's no point. So there's a game designer of this universe. He has been one of those mean guys who has just designed it in a way that he is keeping us interested, but he's not letting us win completely. So we are now slowly coming at a possibility that you know we are not going to be able to find that kind of unification at the end of the spectrum. And we may have to live with the kind of model of we being able to increase our ability to have more better and better understanding of the probabilistic nature of the universe. So it's kind of at the end of the day there could be some kind of probability constant like all other constant natural constants that we have, beyond which you can't push this universe. So that is the kind of understanding that we can generally have in terms of scientific perspective that we can have. But then there are ideas that found in other tools or other methods of looking at the universe. So like when we initially said looked at science and the empirical system it is using of looking at universe, there is another end of that same process, and that is here. So this is science is looking at this, there is possibility that you look at this. So that other way of looking at universe is philosophical or spiritual or whatever, but the one that Oriental philosophers, Indian philosophers have tried for a very, very long time, and then they have come at certain presumptions about this nature of this universe, not from the kind of empirical perspective that science has, but some kind of empiricism that they have understood. I have no access to it. So when they are asked about it, they also end up saying neti neti. So it's not possible to describe it, but apparently, we can believe that they have got some kind of an idea about the universe. Now, if you look at the Indian ideas about this universe, they are predominantly falling under non-dual and dual, Advait and Advait, Advait and Dvait to be precise. So this has a certain amount of leap of faith or confusion for somebody who is looking at scientific way of looking at the universe. But what is proposed in both these ideas is that beyond this reality there is an absoluteness that is not having the same quality of this reality. So one of the craziest statement that you read, it goes like Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. So you can read them separately and say Brahma Satya, it doesn't really much mean. And Jagat Mithya is obviously very crazy when I'm talking to you in front of you. So obviously Jagat is not Mithya. So how is this entire idea, and how can you kind of put it in a way where it works coherently? So I think the best translation that I can make is that you can't have your cake and eat it too. So, and if you think that you don't like these kind of homespun phrases to translate grand philosophical ideas, then there are tons of these kind of things, not exactly similar, but yes, I can fool you if I'm Sadhguru to tell you that, just as you can't have momentum and location, or rather velocity and location of an electron found simultaneously, you can't have, you can either have Brahma Satya or Jagat Mithya. So these are two states for reality to be in. Now, Brahma is basically the absolute. We would not try to describe the nature of it, and Advaita is saying that it's only absolute, nothing else. Everything else is a kind of a fabricated imaginary construct. And Dvait is saying that okay, no, that absolute is there, and then obviously there is a perceiver, there is a Jeev, which is kind of in this process of discovering that absolute. So both of them, I would not really get into saying one is more right or not right, but I would be keen to explain why that idea of Jagat Satya and Brahma, rather Jagat Mithya and Brahma Satya. In fact, it can be said the other way also. Is a very very probable and possible construct. So if you really look at the nature of the universe, as we kind of looked at it from the scientific perspective also, it is very clear that it does have this probabilistic quality that disallows it for an absolute intellect to behold in the way an absolute intellect can behold absolute. So Brahma is an absolute, and obviously the kind of intellect that can behold that would be a different kind of intellect than the intellect that is required to deal with Jagat. But what Indian philosophers have been talking about is that there is a process. So there is a process that goes through this, this kind of. So the intellect has a state that is suitable for the comprehension of the Jagat, of the reality around us. But Mithya is a kind of door. So the minute you manage to pass that door and reach the absolute, you have this. Normally, I think a lot of Western, what do you call, sailors of this idea, they have tried pointing out as if it's some kind of an end of the world or something. When you conceive the absolute, you will have nirvana and all kind of things. But in Indian philosophy, is not all the time that way. What Indian philosophy is trying to say is that this Jagat is as much a necessity for that absolute to be there. So Jagat is the kind of pot in which this absolute is held. So you can continue your process of enhancing your intellect, enhancing your wisdom about the nature of this Jagat, and then can go beyond to the level of absolute, level of Brahma, and there's no big bang, or you don't cease to exist. Only thing is that you live thereafter with a realization that everything that you see around you is actually manifestation of the absolute. So there is a phrase called Satchidanand, which is the state of true happiness. So that Satchidanand is nothing but an intellect in the state of awareness about the absolute, about the state of awareness about the Brahma, but is perceiving this reality. So that is why it is experiencing the reality, but it is impervious to the forces of reality in the emotional sense. So Gita talks a lot about something called Sthita Pragna. That means an intellect that is become so stationed and so quiet that it is not disturbed by the chaotic jagat around it. And they are fairly pragmatic ideas. If you really look at the processes that they are talking about to acquire this absolute intellect, a lot of it is driven to train the human brain. So instead of constantly figuring out the nature of reality and getting frustrated, maybe like Western science is in a way now getting frustrated. What it is saying that you can change this entire problem and bring it in here and work on this. The words like illusion and delusion and all they are very commonly used for ideas like Maya and all. But in reality, it's not something that weird. So if you look at Gita, basically withdrawal of senses, your brain ceases to start responding to the stimuli of reality, and becoming agitated about it. So there's a training of the brain to kind of get away from that and slowly becoming stable. So these ideas are not just philosophical ideas that are that are to boggle the mind, or kind of some provide you with some kind of intellectual breakthrough in the understanding of reality, but they are ideas to help you live in this reality which has got certain qualities that could frustrate a normal intellect. So I would say that Indian philosophies are not all the time required to be looked at as you know part towards liberation or part towards salvation or whatever it is, moksha, nirvana, and all of them have got some deeper meaning in Indian philosophies, but they can be simply looked at a way of stabilizing your intellect and making it more and more aligned to be able to perceive a kind of nature of reality that it is not naturally tuned to. So you're not born with the intellect that is suitable for perceiving the ultimate nature of the reality, but your intellect can be trained. Now I'll do another small video on possibility of looking at karma and free will from this perspective of an intelligence that is in transition from uh, you know perceiving the jagat, and then recognizing the mithyaness of the jagat, and figuring out the absolute nature of Brahma, and then being in the state of Chidananda without some kind of without growing a white beard or something like that. So I'll do that in another video because I already exceeded 15 minutes. Thank you.